Right on the title screen, Brutal Sports Football tells you that it's Brutal Sports Series Football. However, even though there's a sequel to Brutal Sports Football, this is the only game that is in the Brutal Sports series. Brutal Sports Football was part of a whole movement of sports games that was occurring in the early 90s. The new way to get attention for your sports video game was to make it as violent as possible. Over in Japan, Kunio was brawling his way through every single sport possible, while the US and Europe had more individual games. Speedball 2 was a huge hit when it was released in Europe, and some versions even had a subtitle Brutal Deluxe. It turned handball into a full contact sport. The back of the box for Brutal Sports Football points to another inspiration. It says that this is a no-holds-barred game of mutant football. You know, like Mutant League Football, the relatively successful Brutal Sports game that Electronic Arts had published recently on the Genesis. But all of those feel like it's just where Brutal Sports Football is targeting its audience at. For the actual gameplay, they were borrowing from something completely different. Blood Bowl was the rugby-themed sports spin-off of Warhammer Fantasy Battles, a miniatures sports team where you built, painted, and then managed a team of hooligans. As a board game, it was obviously turn-based and very tactical, while Brutal Sports Football is none of those things. But it is fantasy-themed, even if the game says that they're mutants in the future year of 2019. And it is rugby, not football. There's even fewer feet involved here than in American football. Brutal Sports Football was originally released on the Amiga under the simpler title Brutal Football. It was a reasonable success at the time, though I think it hasn't kept a lot of interest over the years. At least I don't hear Amiga players pining for Brutal Football. The original game was by Tech Software and Millennium Interactive. Tech is one of those UK software houses that struggled to survive past the microcomputer transition, but Millennium got purchased by Sony a couple of years after this, and they wound up working on quite a bit, with their biggest legacy probably being the Medieval series. The Jaguar version of Brutal Sports Football was published by Telegames, who are a big part of the Jaguar story. They were easily the most prominent third-party publisher for the system, and when Atari Corporation starts closing things down a few years after this, it's Telegames that takes over the Jaguar for the end of its life. But that's a story for when I get to 1996. Right now, Telegames is just getting started. There are 3 modes of play in Brutal Sports Football: League, Unfriendly, and Knockout. Unfriendly is the friendly match. This is where you go if you want to play a single game. Knockout is a tournament system where 8 teams take part in a bracket. And in League, you play through a series of escalating matches. 4 different leagues of increasing skill, each league having 4 teams in it, and you have to win your season of 6 games in order to advance to the next league. There are 8 human teams to choose from. The game says they're human, but they are clearly dwarves of the Tolkien variety. As far as I can tell, despite the descriptions, all 8 of the human teams are identical. Then there are 3 monster teams: lizards, goats, and rhinos. All matches are 7 minutes long, and you earn points by getting the ball into your opponent's goal, either running it across or throwing it in. Now, you could play the game going for goals like this and probably do pretty well. Or, you could go nuts and decapitate most of the opposing team. If 6 of the 7 players on the other team are killed, then you win the game. Of course, if they're down to just 2 players, you're probably walking the ball into the goal anyways. But it's a way to speed things up. Before you get on the field, you're given your choice of 5 difficulty settings, and these are actually control schemes for when you're playing. The difference between them is, the manual doesn't say anything about this. Even the manual for the computer game doesn't have information on it, even though it uses the same system. I played with 3 different control scheme settings at least, so I have some idea. It basically comes down to how often control switches for players. At the highest setting, you have to manually change everything. At medium, you're usually stuck on one person until the ball is taken, and then you'll switch to them. And on the lower settings, you'll just flip constantly to whoever is closest to the ball. For any control scheme where you have manual control over the player you're controlling, you press the Option button to cycle through players. On the field, B will interact with things, usually making a flying tackle, picking up an object from the ground, using a held weapon, or initiating a pass. C is used if you want to make a diving catch or kick the ball. You've got a guide at the top of the screen that's supposed to be kind of helpful. I found it to be not so helpful. There's a radar that shows the position of every player on the field, all of the items that have spawned on the field, has blinking dots to indicate the actively controlled players, and the solid white dot for the ball. Honestly, it's a visual mess, and considering how active the field is, I don't know how you could use it to tell what's happening. The top bar shows the health of the active player that you're controlling, and the bottom bar is the general health of your entire team. You have some control over your team's tactics. Buttons 1, 2, and 3 on the number pad change the behavior of your computer-controlled teammates. 1 to make them more aggressive, 2 for the balanced option, and 3 to make them play more defensively. All sorts of instruments of mayhem appear on the field as you play. The easiest two to understand are the tortoise and the hare. One slows you down, the other speeds you up. The weapons are things that you have to choose to pick up, and you automatically toss them aside if you come into contact with the ball. Things like the sword and shield are melee weapons, while the axes are thrown if you hit the B button. The bombs are also a thrown weapon, but you get a bunch of them when you pick the bomb up. All the better for doing more damage to the turf. If you're playing in league mode, then after the game is over, you'll get paid, assuming you won. If you didn't win, then you don't get any money. And that becomes a pretty serious problem, because next you can go to the locker room where you heal up your team. You can heal them individually by going to their pods, or go to the center to apply them to the whole team. The red cross restores their health, the lightning bolt increases their speed, and the helmet gives them back their head if they've been decapitated. If you don't win, then you're not going to have enough money to heal your team. And if you can't heal your team, then you're just going to get crushed by the next opponent, because the computer isn't getting worn down by games like you do. At least you can get a password in between matches so you can save your progress. I found Brutal Sports Football to be a bit of an odd mix. It's got a lot of flaws, like it's very difficult to tell where the ball is going after it's been thrown, or how you could be attacking somebody and then suddenly find yourself in control of the ball and immediately throw it into your own goal. And it desperately needed more monster teams. Come on, give us 8 teams of weird fantasy creatures, not 8 teams of dwarves. But when you're playing, it's fast, energetic, kind of fun. Definitely the kind of game that I think plays better with another person, but it's not bad on your own. Honestly, for the Jaguars' first sports game, this is better than I expected. There's better arcade sports games out there, including on the Jaguar, but Brutal Sports Football is a decent one.